I feel like as an artist, change is not only inevitable, but sometimes completely necessary in terms of advancing in your career. Because my whole ethos is like it's not just about like the creative aspects and having fun doing that, and that is a huge part of it. But there's also another side to being an artist and pursuing it as a career, and that is like the social aspect and the self aspect. How do you feel about yourself, and what is your self concept, and things like that? How do other people affect that? And you're going to run into these times where you're going to have to make choices and decisions, and sometimes those are life changing choices and decisions. And it can be really, really scary, especially if they're choices and decisions that you really want to avoid, be it a toxic relationship, a toxic friendship, or maybe it's like codependency and things like that. And I think on some intuitive level, we all really know in the back of our heads when something isn't right for us, and when it is holding us back from furthering ourselves or expanding. We can sort of get addicted to that feeling of being in something that's bad for us. Here in Aotearoa, we have these like trucks, and they're main freight trucks, and they travel across the country. I don't know, they have like stuff in them. They're transporting stuff anyway. They have quotes on the back of them. And the one that I like the most is, "The only thing that limits me is me." And I've really taken that quite seriously. The only thing that is stopping me from having what I want, or pursuing what I want, or advancing, or just, I don't know, engulfing yourself fully into a life that you desire, oftentimes it narrows down to a decision that you need to make. And I think of the Tower card in tarot. And the Tower card, it seems scary because it's like this burning tower, and there's all of these people falling out of it, and it's like chaos, right? The way that I was sort of taught to read that card was not necessarily like destruction and crazy. Like, yes, it can be, but we're thinking about it as like the glass is half full, in terms of like the only reason that the tower fell was because the foundation wasn't strong enough. And foundations are no joke, okay? And change can change can really create a opening, an opportunity for growing beyond where you're at. And I think that sometimes when you sort of attain a certain level of success, or maybe even just have like reached a certain level where you feel like, okay, well, my life is this right now, and I want to go further, but I feel like I'm sort of stuck here, or I'm held back, or you've got fears about losing things, and you don't want to lose anything. You don't want to, and that can really, it really can get you in mental prisons, and thinking, like overthinking things and thinking about things that aren't actually real or happening. And the way that I see it is like, once you're sort of devoted to this, and you're devoted to a career in art, or even just a life of art, a life of artistry, working a 9 to 5 but also being an artist, right? And wanting to fully express yourself, without the shackles of insecurity, or not having enough courage, or just anything like that. That change is so necessary. When you have that devotion, you trust and you understand that there is this invisible string leading you forward, and you can trust that, and I know that that can be really daunting and scary, because it's like, well, I can't see what's in front of me. I can't see where I'm being led right now. Everything around me seems to be toppling over and just ending, and I don't understand, and I don't feel like I can keep going. But yes, you can. Yes, you can, because through that perseverance, you're building a stronger foundation. Making the decision to keep going is already laying the groundwork for a stronger foundation, so that that tower doesn't fall down again, so that that tower stands strong and tall and allows you to build something even better. And it's just the nature of being human. We learn and we grow and we learn from our mistakes and we do better. Something that I think that the world is really missing right now, you know, in terms of like the way that our societies and stuff is structured. It seems like people don't think about what we've done wrong enough and how to improve it, you know. And you've got to start with yourself, I guess. And I think that that is just a fantastic way to view things in any regard, is that if you learn and you grow and you learn from your mistakes and you build upon that, you're already moving forward, right? Celebrities say all the time, don't give up, keep going, you know. And like I've said many times before, it's not about being famous. It doesn't have to be. Fame is a byproduct of your creative work, and first and foremost, you should be having fun and you should be feeling optimistic about doing this, and you should feel like, I'm happy, I'm so happy that I'm doing this, I feel so fulfilled. You know, I mean, it's not always going to be like that, but in the grand scheme of things, right? Like if you're chasing fame, you're chasing validation. But if you're chasing freedom of self-expression and fun and artistry and exploration and adventure, your cup is full. You are feeling good. You're feeling in alignment. You're feeling like, you know, you can sort of celebrate that with other people and not, you know, feel like you have to be in competition. And we totally want to be like recognized for the work that we put into things. But that's why I'd say, like, you know, you got to be that person for yourself first, you know, and eventually just you have to give it time to develop and to grow, in terms of like an audience or anything like that. And it's cool to want that, you know, it's cool to have goals and reach those goals however you need to. But I think first and foremost, it is about having a good foundation, and change is the only thing that can really, you know, test your strength of perseverance and how much you're willing to have that blind faith and to let things change. And when you can be able to be so devoted to it that you incite that change and you make choices for yourself to progress yourself forward, that is strength. That is like, that's self-love. That's loving yourself to a level where you respect yourself, okay? And you don't have to rush these things, you know. Change can take time. You know, you can take time to make decisions and things like that. I feel like that goes without saying. But I think ultimately, just having that audacity to really make choices for yourself and sort of, you know, be like, hey, this is my life. I've chosen to be an artist. I've chosen this path of self-discovery and self-expression. And if I'm devoted to that, to the max, then change can only excite me, because it means that something new is going to take place and a new foundation is being built, and it's going to be even stronger. Sometimes we know when we've overstayed our welcome in a time in our life, but we just sort of refuse out of comfort, and comfort is such a vibe killer, you know. And I mean, I'm guilty of that. Like I'm guilty of staying in one place for too long. But at the same time, like I say, like that devotion to this and to being an artist takes you out of that, you know, because you can't stay in one place for too long. You know, you have to move eventually, and I think the more that you do that, the more you can trust yourself to do that, and the more you can trust yourself to rest as well. You know, I think that that's such an important thing to do. Especially when a big change has taken place and you need to just like take a break and really acclimatize to everything. It's super important to do that. It's such a massive expression of self-love and self-respect to put yourself first in that way. And sometimes like people want you to be stuck, like there's going to be people that want you to be stuck. They don't want you to progress. But it's like how much you're willing to give to them, like do you want to give them so much time that you see your life pass you by? And that's the sort of thing that I mean, is like, are you devoted enough to this? Are you devoted enough to yourself? Can you be devoted enough to yourself to walk away from what doesn't serve you? Can you walk away from that with strength, and knowing that something better will fill its place, something more aligned with you and your happiness? Because, if you're creating a life and you're devoted to creating a life where your happiness comes first and where your self-respect is at the forefront, you're going to attract that naturally. You're going to change your circumstances around you, and that comes with courage of maybe being alone sometimes, maybe not knowing everything that's going to happen and how it's going to work out, but just having that faith of like, well, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I made a choice out of self-respect and self-love. And that aligns with me, and that's who I am. And whatever comes next has to show up in that way. And if it doesn't, I'm not here for it, because we want support. We need support. We deserve support. So I want you to make a decision for yourself today. And I want it to be out of self-respect and self-love. Maybe it's saying no to somebody that you usually say yes to, that you don't want to say yes to. Anything, okay? Just try it, see how it feels. Maybe it's uncomfortable, maybe it feels really gross and icky, right? But putting yourself first is like the best thing that you can do, okay? And it's not just about like having a creative career. This is just in general in life. You really, really deserve to experience life without things draining your light. Sometimes we know when it is draining us and we don't want to look at it. We don't want to acknowledge it, because that means we have to make hard decisions. But those hard decisions will serve you well. I promise. As always, I really hope that this video helped, and I will see you in the next one.